I'm not sure if this is the kind of story you're used to hearing. Sure, there are plenty of tales about people getting cheated on, left reeling by someone they thought they knew. But mine? It's not exactly the usual heartbreak scenario. I wasn't just the guy who got the rug pulled out from under him. No, I ended up making a mess of my own. But before you start picturing me as just another jerk who couldn't handle the truth, let me clear something up. I didn't get here on my own. Trust me, I was pushed, manipulated, and honestly tricked into doing what I did. It wasn't all my fault. But let's rewind a little, all right? You can't just dive into the middle of the mess without understanding how it all started. To be clear, I'm just an average guy. Nothing special. I'm not a genius. I'm not some tough guy either. I'm just a guy working a regular job, trying to stay afloat and keep my life from spinning out of control. Drama? I avoid it like the plague. I'm the type who likes things to stay calm and predictable. That's just who I am. Always has been. You don't need to know my name, but my wife's name, well, that matters. Her name was Lena. Now Lena? That's where things get interesting. She was the kind of woman who could light up any room the moment she stepped inside. It wasn't that she was drop-dead gorgeous, though let's be honest, she was stunning. It was more how she carried herself. She had this confidence, sharp wit, and was always quick with a comeback. She was one of those people who just owned every conversation. People couldn't help but be drawn to her. Even when we first met, I was struck by how easily everyone flocked to her. It was like she had some kind of magnetism. And who could blame them? She was funny, charismatic, and had a laugh that could cheer anyone up, no matter how bad their day was. Her sense of humor? It was a force to be reckoned with. She had this uncanny knack for roasting people with a single line, cutting them down in a way that somehow made them laugh. It was like magic. Everyone loved it. Her friends, my friends, even our families. And at first I loved it too. But after a while it got old. It's hard to keep finding something funny when every joke seems to be at your expense. In our relationship, Lena was the one who brought the jokes. Me? Not so much. I was the one who kept things grounded, the one who made sure nothing went off the rails. For a while it worked. She was the spark, and I kept the fire from burning too hot. But that humor of hers came back around in a way I never expected. What she pulled off was no joke. It was cruel, twisted, and so messed up, I couldn't even wrap my head around it. And you probably won't believe it either, not until you hear the full story. The night it all started was like any other. I came home from work, just wiped out like I always was. The grind had been getting to me, but that's life, right? You go to work, you come home, eat dinner, crash, and do it all again the next day. But that night, I walked in, and the house felt different, warmer, somehow. Dinner was already on the table. I think it was Italian. She knew I liked pasta, so she'd make it when she was in a good mood. The candles were lit. Lena had this thing about setting the right mood. And there she was, sitting at the table, smiling like everything was just perfect. Like nothing was wrong. We sat down, ate, talked about the usual stuff. I asked her about her day. She asked me about mine. She laughed at some dumb joke, and I thought, there it is, that damn laugh. Everything felt normal. I wasn't paying much attention to her mood, to be honest. I was too busy shoveling food into my mouth and trying to shake off the stress of the day. But then, little by little, something started to shift. First, it was tiny. A slight change in the way she was sitting. A shift in her tone. I noticed she was leaning back, her eyes narrowing just a bit. And then, out of nowhere, she said it. You know, she said, her voice so casual, like she was talking about the weather. I've been feeling kind of tired of us lately. I stopped dead in my tracks, my fork hanging in midair. Tired? I echoed, completely thrown off. What do you mean, tired? She sighed, like this was the most normal thing to say. I don't know. Things just feel stale. Like we're stuck, you know? I didn't know. I was blindsided. We weren't fighting. We weren't in some deep hole, at least I didn't think we were. Sure, we had our routines, but I thought we were solid. 7 years of marriage. You'd think we'd have it figured out by now. Turns out I was wrong. Completely wrong. And then she hit me with the real bomb. I slept with someone, she said. Completely flat. No emotion. No remorse. It was like she was telling me she bought some new shoes or something. It left me speechless. But then, as if it was no big deal, she added, "Don't worry though, I'm not going to do it again." My mind went blank. I couldn't process it. Everything around me faded, and all I could hear were those words, ringing in my head like some sick joke that hadn't fully hit me yet. Did she just say that? Did she really just tell me she cheated on me, like it was no big deal? My throat dried up, and my grip on the fork tightened so hard I thought it might snap. But I didn't care about the fork. I couldn't look away from her, searching desperately for any hint that this was some stupid prank, that she was joking. But her eyes? There was nothing there. Just cold, detached indifference. As if she hadn't just destroyed everything I thought was real. She stood up, walked over to me, and kissed me on the lips. Quick, meaningless kiss. "Good night," she said softly, like we hadn't just had the most devastating conversation of my life. No more words. She turned and walked away, heading to the bedroom like nothing had changed. And there I was, frozen in place. I couldn't move. I couldn't think. My eyes dropped to my hands, and I realized I had completely bent the fork out of shape. My chest felt like it was caving in, and all I could feel was the anger rising up inside me. Instead of charging after her, demanding an explanation, I just stayed there, fists balled so tight I thought my nails might break skin. My mind was a whirl of thoughts, but one thing cut through the chaos. Revenge. She thought she could just drop that bomb on me, kiss me, and waltz off to bed as if nothing had changed, like I wasn't supposed to do something about it. Oh, trust me, I was going to do something. I was going to make her regret every word she said. But how was I supposed to know that this was just some twisted joke? How could I have known her sick sense of humor had twisted so far? After she kissed me and left, so casually like nothing was wrong, I felt my anger heat up inside me. I couldn't sit there, not with my mind racing. Without even thinking, I grabbed my jacket, threw it on, and stormed out of the house. I needed to breathe. I needed space. But more than anything, I needed someone to unload on. So I reached for my phone. I thought about calling my best friend, the one I always turned to when life was a mess. But as my finger hovered over his name, it stopped on a different one. Maya, Lena's friend. But Maya wasn't some stranger to me. I'd known her longer than I'd known Lena. We ran in the same circles before Lena and I even met. To be honest, there was always a little something between Maya and me. Nothing serious, but I could tell she liked me back then. Before Lena, it was one of those situations where timing was always off. But I had this feeling that Maya's feelings never really went away. Without giving it much thought, I dialed her number. She answered after a couple of rings, sounding surprised but not in a bad way. "Hey, what's up?" she asked, her voice light, like we were just picking up an old conversation. "Can you meet me?" I blurted, not even thinking about it. "I need to talk. At the bar near your place." There was a brief pause, but she didn't ask any questions. "Yeah, sure. I'll be there in 10, she said. No pressure. It was like she already knew something was wrong. I jumped in my car and sped to the bar, my head still buzzing from the mess at home. When I got there, I saw Maya right away. She was sitting at a booth, nursing a drink, her eyes glancing up as I walked in, eyebrows raised in mild surprise. "Where's Lena?" she asked, a hint of curiosity in her voice. I sat down, avoiding the question for a moment. "She's not coming," I said flatly. That caught her attention. Her face shifted from casual to concerned in an instant. "What's going on? You look like you've seen a ghost." We ordered drinks, and after a few rounds, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I spilled everything. How Lena had casually confessed to cheating. How she acted like it was nothing. Maya didn't believe me at first. I could see it in her eyes. Disbelief, shock. But the more she stared at me, the more she realized I wasn't lying. I saw her starting to piece it together. We kept drinking, and as the alcohol kicked in, the conversation got deeper, heavier. The edge of my anger started to dull, but it was still there, just under the surface, ready to bubble over. By the time last call came, we were both feeling it. Out of nowhere, Maya leaned in closer and said, I've got another bottle of wine at my place, if you want to keep this going. I didn't even think twice. I just nodded and we left together. Her apartment wasn't far from the bar. We stumbled inside, laughing about something I couldn't even recall now. But as soon as we popped open that bottle of wine, I knew where the night was headed. The look in her eyes, intense, hungry, told me everything. I wasn't going to stop it. And honestly, I didn't want to. After a few more glasses, things escalated fast. 1 minute we were talking, the next we were on her couch. Hands everywhere, lips crashing together. And in that moment, I made a choice I hadn't planned on. I pulled out my phone, recording. Not the whole thing, just a few clips here and there. Maya noticed, of course. At first, she wasn't having it. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice slurred but still sharp. She pushed my hand away. "It's just for me," I said quickly, trying to calm her down. "No one will see it, I promise. It'll be fine." She hesitated, but after a beat, she gave in. Alcohol, lust, and a whole lot of unresolved tension between us. It made people do things they wouldn't normally do. "All right, whatever," she muttered. I kept the camera rolling, capturing just enough to satisfy whatever messed up part of me thought this was a good idea. When it was over, I knew it was time to go. I told her I had to leave. She looked at me, a little disappointed. "You're leaving already?" she asked, her voice tinged with hurt. "Yeah, I should," I said, already feeling the weight of what I'd just done. "It's late." She wanted me to stay, I could tell. But I wasn't going to spend the night there. This wasn't something I wanted to make a habit of, and I sure as hell wasn't about to complicate things further by sticking around. So I left. I called a cab, and as I sat in the back seat, my head was spinning from both the booze and the sex. There was this strange mix of satisfaction and guilt crawling up from deep inside me. I had done it. I had gotten my revenge. But did it feel better? No, not at all. If anything, it left me feeling emptier than before, like I had filled a hole that wasn't going to stay filled for long. When I got home, it was late. The house was dark. Lena was probably asleep, unaware of the mess I just made. I stood there in the hallway for a second, my mind racing, trying to process it all. Finally, without a word, I went straight to the couch and crashed for the night. The next morning, the air felt thick, like something heavy was hanging over it. You know that feeling, the kind where everything's just off and you can't quite put your finger on it? Yeah, that's what I walked into. I tried to shake off the tension as I dragged myself into the kitchen, half expecting Lena to greet me with that sweet, fake cheerfulness she sometimes pulled off, acting like nothing had happened the night before. But nope. She was already sitting at the table, her eyes locked onto her phone, lips pressed together in a tight, thin line. She didn't even look up when I walked in. She just sipped her coffee, but I could feel the storm brewing under her calm exterior. It wasn't the kind of anger that rages, it was the slow burn kind, the kind that builds up until it finally erupts. I sat down across from her, doing my best to ignore the weight of her glare boring into me. We ate in silence for a few minutes before she finally spoke, her voice thick with irritation. "So," she dragged the word out, "where the hell were you last night? You came home way late, and you didn't even come to bed." Her eyes were fixed on me, waiting for an explanation. But I wasn't in the mood for her questions. I knew I had to respond, but this time, I wasn't about to sugarcoat it. After all, she'd started this whole mess. I took a deep breath and said, as calmly as I could muster, "I was out." She didn't buy it. Her eyes narrowed, her suspicion growing as she put down her phone and gave me her full attention. "Out? Doing what? Because from where I'm sitting, it sure looks like you were up to something." I glanced at her, letting a small, almost mocking smirk pull at the corner of my mouth. "Yeah, I was thinking about us." She blinked, caught off guard. "How?" I leaned back, trying to keep my tone casual, even though everything in the room felt like it was about to snap. "I'm a little tired of our relationship," I said, though both of us knew it had been coming for a while. The silence between us thickened as I let my words sink in before adding, "So, I guess I did something about it." Her face shifted, confusion taking over. "Wait, what?" You're tired? Since when? I shrugged, trying to keep it light. I guess for a while now. And last night? She pressed, clearly not ready to let it go. What did you do about it? I paused for a moment, watching her face, enjoying the confusion flicker in her eyes. I cheated, I said flatly, letting the words settle like a bomb in the room. Her face faltered for a second, her smile vanishing, but she quickly regained her composure. She looked at me, searching for some sign that I was joking. Oh, really? You cheated on me? With who? I exhaled, knowing exactly what I was about to drop. No, not some random girl. It was Maya. Her face went from disbelief to shock in the blink of an eye. She just stared at me, her mouth slightly agape, trying to process what I had said. Wait. What? Maya? My Maya? Are you serious right now? I didn't flinch. Yeah. I slept with her last night. She blinked rapidly, then burst out laughing. But this wasn't her usual laugh. It was nervous, almost desperate. Oh my God, you're joking. Maya? Really? This is your big lie? What kind of prank is this? I didn't say a word. Instead, I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and opened the video. I hit play and held it up for her to see. At first, she just stared at the screen, smiling as if she still thought this was some elaborate joke. But as Maya's face appeared on the screen, her smile faltered. Then, the unmistakable sounds of what had happened the night before filled the room, and Lena's expression changed completely. Her face drained of color, her eyes widening in shock. Before I could even react, she slammed her hand to her mouth, then knocked my phone out of my hand with such force that it skittered across the table. You bastard! She screamed, her voice cracking as she stood up so fast her chair clattered to the floor. You're out of your damn mind. You slept with Maya. I stood up too, anger flaring in me, matching the fury in her eyes. Oh, now I'm the bad guy? What about you, huh? You cheated on me first. You don't get to act like the victim here. She shot me a glare that could have burned through steel, her chest rising and falling with each quick breath. I didn't cheat on you, you idiot. It was a joke. A joke. Do you hear me? I froze. A joke? What the hell was she talking about? A joke. I repeated, completely thrown off. You were joking? She threw her hands in the air, pacing back and forth like a caged animal. Yes, I was joking, she snapped, her voice getting higher. It was all just to mess with you. I didn't sleep with anyone. I was going to tell you once you calmed down. But no, you had to storm off like a lunatic before I could explain. The room felt like it was spinning, my mind struggling to catch up with what she was saying. A joke? I muttered, still trying to wrap my head around it. You were joking? Yes, she yelled, tears streaming down her face now. I was joking. I never cheated on you. But you. She pointed at me, shaking with a mix of fury and disbelief. You went and slept with Maya and filmed it. How the hell do you think I'm supposed to react to that? Felt like the floor dropped out from under me. Everything I thought I knew, every ounce of anger, every ounce of justification I'd built up, crumbled in an instant. I stood there, open-mouthed, feeling the weight of my mistake hit me all at once. Lena? I whispered, reaching out to her, my heart pounding, realizing how badly I'd screwed up. I didn't know. She cut me off, her voice thick with emotion. I don't want to hear it, she said sharply. You've done enough damage. You ruined everything, you asshole. Tears were still streaming down her face, her pain clear as day. You slept with my best friend. How the hell do you expect me to forgive that? I had nothing to say. What could I say? I just stood there, dumbfounded, drowning in guilt. I didn't know, I repeated, but the words felt hollow, like an empty excuse. She shook her head, retreating from me, arms crossed defensively. Just go, she snapped. I don't want to see you right now. She turned away from me, storming down the hallway, slamming the bedroom door so hard it felt like the whole house shuddered. The sound of the lock clicking shut was like a final punch, sealing the deal. And then I heard it, her sobs, muffled but unmistakable. I stood there, feeling like I had been hit by a freight train, my whole body frozen in place. I wanted to fix it. I wanted to say the right thing, apologize, do something to make it better. But what could I possibly do now? To cross the line. A line that couldn't be uncrossed. No matter how much I hated to admit it, the damage was done, and I was already too far gone. The guilt was eating at me, but so was the anger. I couldn't stop thinking that all of this started because of her ridiculous joke. She had set the whole thing in motion. Without thinking, I grabbed my jacket, storming out the door. I needed to talk to Maya. I needed to explain myself. Somehow, to tell her what I had done to everything. To all of us. When I got to her place, Maya answered the door, and her face lit up with surprise. But that expression faded the moment she saw my face. No small talk. I dove straight into it. Lena's joke, the video, the fallout, everything. As I spoke, I saw Maya's confusion twist into anger. "You're a piece of work," she hissed, her voice low and dangerous. She crossed her arms tightly over her chest, her gaze turning cold. "You dragged me into this. You didn't even tell me you were using me to get back at Lena. What the hell are you talking about?" I shot back, frustration building up fast. "You knew what was happening. You were there. You agreed to this." "Yeah. I agreed because I thought it was between us." Maya started pacing, her hands flying through the air. "I didn't know you were using me to get back at Lena. Do you even realize what you've done? You've wrecked everything. I've lost my best friend because of you." I clenched my fists, trying to keep the anger from boiling over. "This isn't just my fault, Maya. You were there. You knew what we were doing. You're just as guilty." She stopped pacing and turned to face me, her glare sharp enough to slice through concrete. "You really are unbelievable. You've always been a mess. I've been in love with you since university." She spat, the words laced with bitterness. And then came the quiet, gut-wrenching part. "And this is how you repay me?" Maya's voice softened, but the hurt in it was like a punch to the gut. I had no idea she still felt that way about me. Not like that. For a moment, the anger between us faded, replaced by something more awkward and raw. We both sat there on her couch, neither of us knowing what to say. The weight of everything hung in the air, unspoken, as we stared at the floor. A few minutes passed before Maya sighed and pulled out her phone, dialing Lena's number. "I'm going to try calling her," she said, her voice almost resigned. "Maybe I can explain. Maybe she'll get it." She dialed, but each call went straight to voicemail. She tried again and again, but Lena wasn't picking up. I could hear the desperation creep into Maya's voice. "She's not answering," Maya muttered, shaking her head. "I don't know if she ever will." The sinking feeling in my stomach matched hers. It was like I was falling, and there was nothing to stop it. No matter how many times I tried to make things right, it felt like I was just sinking deeper. I left Maya's place, hoping somehow that maybe I could fix this. Maybe I could find some way to apologize to Lena, make things right. But when I walked through the door, the first thing Lena said was, "I already called a lawyer." She didn't even look at me. Her voice was cold, empty, like she had already made up her mind. "I'm filing for divorce." My stomach dropped. It felt like the ground had opened beneath me, and I was falling into an abyss with no way to climb out. "Lena, please," I pleaded, but she didn't want to hear it. "There's nothing more to say." She cut me off, her back turned to me as she folded laundry like it was just another normal day. "You made your choice. Now I'm making mine." I stood there for what felt like forever, trying to think of something, anything to say. But the truth was I had nothing. I had lost her, completely, and I knew there was no going back. So, I did the only thing I could think of. I went back to Maya's place. When she opened the door, I didn't waste time with excuses. "Can I stay with you for a while?" I asked. Maya hesitated, her eyes scanning my face with frustration and doubt. "I don't think that's a good idea," she said at first, crossing her arms. Honestly, I couldn't blame her. I had dragged her into this mess too, and she had her own problems to deal with now. But just as I turned to leave, defeated, she called me back. "Wait," she said, softer now. "All right, Fine, you can stay, but just for a bit. This whole thing, it's a lot. So I stayed with Maya. The divorce dragged on for a month, and during that time, everyone found out. Lena made sure of it, told everyone every tiny detail. And in the process, our friends split into two sides. Some stayed neutral, but most sided with Lena. Couldn't blame them. During that month, Maya and I spent more and more time together. What had started as a mistake, something fueled by anger, hurt, and bad decisions, slowly turned into something else. We tried to make sense of it, tried to figure out if what had happened between us meant something. Anything. But the more we tried, the more we realized something was wrong. There was a gap between us. A chasm neither of us knew how to cross. Maya still had feelings for me, I could tell, but those feelings were tainted now. Just like mine. The guilt, the confusion, the weight of it all. It was too much. We tried to pretend everything was fine, but we both knew it wasn't. Every time I looked at her, the guilt hung over me like a shadow, and every smile she gave me felt hollow, forced, like we were trying to convince ourselves this was okay. But it wasn't. We both knew that. I was stuck in limbo, caught between the wreckage of my marriage and this broken, fragile connection with Maya that didn't feel real. The harder we tried to move on, the more it became clear. Neither of us could escape the mess we had made. We were both out of place, and I had no idea where to go from here. Update: it's been a while since I last updated you all, and I guess it's time to check in. After the whirlwind with Lena, the divorce, and the fallout with Maya, I've had some space to think. Honestly, I've changed more than I thought was even possible. As for Maya and me, we tried. We really did. For a moment, it felt like we could turn this messed up situation into something real. We had history, after all, and for a while it seemed like maybe we could salvage something from the wreckage. But the truth is, it wasn't meant to be. We grew up together, and for a while we were just two people holding each other up when everything else was falling apart. But that's not a foundation for something lasting. What really broke us wasn't just the mistakes we made. It was everyone else. Our so-called friends. The judgment was relentless. People love to pretend like they're perfect, and they sure don't mind pointing fingers when someone else screws up. They whispered behind our backs, made biting comments, and acted like our lives were the next great scandal for them to gossip about. It wore us both down, and eventually, it became more than we could handle. One night, after another uncomfortable encounter with one of her friends, we sat down. There wasn't much said. We both knew. We had too much baggage, too many people in our ears, too much noise from the outside. It wasn't a dramatic breakup. It wasn't a big, emotional scene. We just knew. And we let it go. For both of our sakes. Now, well, I'm in a different place. A different town, a different mindset. I made the decision to leave this place behind. I'm packing up, saying goodbye to the memories, to everything. It's strange, and I won't lie, it feels like jumping off a cliff, but deep down, I know it's what I need. I need to escape the constant reminders of my past, the looks, the whispers. I need a fresh start. I'm not running from myself. I'm running towards something new, a chance to rebuild. It's scary, though. I'm not going to lie, but there's something in that fear, in that uncertainty, that gives me hope. Maybe this time, I'll find out who I am without all the baggage weighing me down. I know it won't be easy, but it's a step forward, and for the first time in a long time, I think I'm ready for it. Here's to a fresh start. Update: so, here I am, already starting over in a new city. It's funny how quickly everything can change when you actually make the decision to leave the past behind. I found a job right away, too. I'm working in an office now, doing something completely different than I ever thought I would. It's not glamorous. It's basic office work, a bit of project management thrown in. But it's steady. After everything I've been through, stability feels like a welcome change. I clock in, do my thing, clock out. No drama. No high-stakes emotions. Just work. And honestly, for now, that's exactly what I need. Of course, life's never that simple. There's this girl at work. Let's call her Isabel. She's the kind of woman who walks into a room, and it's like the air shifts. She's not loud or overbearing, but there's something about her. Something magnetic. She's got this quiet confidence that draws people in, and she's sharp as hell. Doesn't let anyone push her around. I've caught myself looking at her more than I should, and I think she knows it. But I haven't done anything about it. How could I? I'm still carrying around all this history. My divorce, the mess with Maya, all of it still clinging to me. I feel like I'm walking around with baggage that doesn't belong to me anymore, but I haven't figured out how to drop it. I feel guilty, like I don't deserve to move on. Part of me knows I need to make peace with all of it before I can even think about starting something new. So here I am, stuck in this weird limbo. I really like Isabel, but I don't know how to tell her. What if I mess it up? What if I'm not ready? I don't want to drag anyone into my chaos. So I'm asking all of you, what would you do? Would you take the chance? Or wait until you've sorted yourself out? Anyway, I just wanted to check in and say thanks again for sticking with me. Your support has meant more than you know. I'm still figuring things out, but it feels good knowing I'm not doing it alone. Here's hoping I can make something good come out of this mess. Update: here's the next chapter, and this one feels a bit different from the last. I'm in a relationship with Isabel now, and it's going better than I thought it would. I took my time with it, didn't rush in, didn't want to repeat my mistakes. I've been seeing a psychologist, really trying to unpack everything I've been through, especially with Lena and Maya. It's been tough, but I'm starting to think it's been worth it. I realized I can't keep punishing myself for the past. Yeah, I made mistakes. I hurt people. It's taken me a long time to come to terms with that, but I'm finally starting to feel like I'm moving forward, like I deserve a chance to try again. And Isabel, she's been amazing, so patient, so understanding. She knows everything about my past, and while I was terrified to tell her, she didn't judge me. That's rare and it's a relief. One thing that hasn't changed is my complete lack of humor. Maybe I'm just not wired for it. But Isabel's got this lightness to her, and we laugh about it. Maybe that's enough. So yeah, I wanted to let you all know how things are going. I'm in a better place now, and it feels good to finally admit that. Thanks again for your support. Wishing you all the best, and I hope life treats you well wherever you go.